The NFL draft is less than a few weeks away, and the question remains, where will Marvin Harrison Jr. be getting drafted to? Not only is he a top 3 prospect in this draft, but he is arguably the best wide receiver, and it's not close. You see, Malik Neighbors and Rome Odunze might be nice, but they pale in comparison to what Marvin Harrison Jr. is and what he could be in the NFL. Now, the thing about Marvin Harrison Jr. is he spent his last 3 years with the Ohio State Buckeyes, and he didn't get much love his rookie season as he only managed to snag 139 receiving yards on only 11 receptions and still got 3 touchdowns. Now, the reason for that being, while he was a rookie at Ohio State, there were a lot of fantastic wide receivers above him on the depth chart. For starters, you had Jackson Smith-Njigba, 1,600 receiving yard season. He got 9 touchdowns of his own and ate up 95 receptions from their quarterback CJ Stroud. And he wasn't the only stud that Marvin Harrison Jr. was stuck behind, because again, that receiving core in 2021 was stacked. Another receiver in front of Marvin Harrison Jr., Garrett Wilson. He also caught for 1,000 receiving yards, 70 receptions, 12 touchdowns. And if you think that might have hurt Marvin Harrison Jr., well, Chris Olave was also on this team. 936 receiving yards, 65 receptions, 13 touchdowns. Now, I understand that Marvin Harrison Jr. was a rookie at the time, but I'm just stating why this potential top 3 draft pick only got 11 receptions his rookie year. However, when a few of those guys moved on to the NFL, that was really when Marvin Harrison Jr. took control of the offense, in the sense that he ended up eating a lot more of the receptions the very next season in his sophomore year. You see, both Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson were drafted, and Jackson Smith-Njigba went down with a season-ending injury very early on, which meant that this entire offense was just going to be between CJ Stroud and Marvin Harrison Jr. And that's exactly what helped elevate this man into stardom, okay? 2022 was really when Marvin Harrison Jr. got a lot of his headlines for the very first time. I mean, he had 77 receptions on the season, 1,200 receiving yards, 14 touchdowns. Hell, he even rushed twice. He's very versatile in that sense. Now, did it help Marvin Harrison Jr. that he had an absolute superstar at quarterback in CJ Stroud? Yeah, probably, because in his sophomore year, Marvin Harrison's sophomore year, CJ Stroud would go on to throw for 3,600 passing yards, 41 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions, had a rating of 177.7, and hell, he even had 258 completions. CJ Stroud did it all that year, and Marvin Harrison Jr. was able to thrive off of that success. But it doesn't end there, because while CJ Stroud ended up going into the NFL the very same year, yeah, Marvin Harrison Jr. still had 1 year left, and he still had so much to prove to not only the NFL, but himself. And so that leads us to 2023. And in this season, he had a fantastic year. Not only statistically, but all around. You could see it in the way he moved, in the way he played. His confidence was at an all-time high. He put up nearly the same numbers in his junior year in spite of Kyle McCord being his quarterback. And I mean no disrespect to Kyle McCord, but he isn't nearly as talented as CJ Stroud. You see, in his junior year, Marvin Harrison Jr. was able to put up 1,200 receiving yards, 67 receptions, 14 touchdowns, in the air he caught, and 1 on the ground. Marvin Harrison Jr. not only got better on the field, but honestly, I believe he developed as a leader in that Ohio State locker room under Ryan Day. Because at this point, he was one of the older veterans on the team, and he had seen a lot of success in the regular season for Ohio State, but had never won it all while playing for the Buckeyes. So by the time the junior year came around, he was ready to lead the Ohio State Buckeyes farther than they've been in a while. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case because they ended up losing to J.J. McCarthy and to John Harbaugh, in the Big Ten Championship. And, Jim Harbaugh is just on a run. When he's hot like that, he cannot be stopped. And that's probably why they ended up winning the national championship. Now, during his time at Ohio State, Marvin Harrison Jr. ended up becoming a two-time All-American and 2023 Big Ten Offensive Player of the Year, as well as finishing 4th in Heisman voting this season. He had a fantastic career at Ohio State. He is a 6'4", 205-pound specimen. And if you're wondering where he gets it from, it's probably his Hall of Fame father. Yes, Marvin Harrison, wide receiver who spent more than a decade with the Indianapolis Colts from 1996 to 2008. He ended up being drafted by the Colts in 1996 with the 19th overall pick in the first round. And let me tell you, while Marvin Harrison Jr. might be an amazing prospect, he sure has a hell of a lot to live up to, because his father definitely left his mark on the NFL. He was able to win a Super Bowl with Peyton Manning towards the end of his career. He accomplished a lot. 1,100 receptions, 14,580 receiving yards, 128 touchdowns, and he averaged 13 yards of a catch. These are the numbers that Marvin Harrison Jr. needs to match in his career if he wants to be seen as better than his father. And I know that is a lot of pressure to put on such a young man, but Marvin Harrison Jr. has not only lived up to expectations, he's exceeded them every step of the way. High school, college, hell, even middle school, Marvin Harrison Jr. has lived up to his father's legacy. So I only hope to see more success from him when he reaches the NFL. Now the question is, what team will Marvin Harrison Jr. be drafted to? Obviously, the Chicago Bears have the first overall pick, and that's where it starts. What will the Bears do with this pick? I believe that if they are to trade back, to the second or third overall pick, then they will most definitely be selecting Marvin Harrison Jr. to pair alongside DJ Moore and give Justin Fields the tools he needs to succeed. I believe an offense centered around, Justin Fields and then DJ Moore and Marvin Harrison Jr. as his two primary weapons is a recipe for success. Not only success for Chicago, but, success for the NFL. It's going to bring in more eyes, okay? I guarantee you that if the Bears are smart here and able to build a solid roster in free agency, that selecting Marvin Harrison Jr. with the second or third overall pick is going to get them into the playoffs next season. I can see it happening already. But if that isn't the case and the Bears decide to trade back further or just select Caleb Williams with the first overall pick, then I do believe that the Patriots, who sit at number 3, have a real shot at drafting him. Of course, I know it is smarter for them to just draft a quarterback because they don't really have one of those. And that's most likely what the Commanders are going to be doing at number 2, drafting a quarterback. But let's be real, when have the Patriots ever did what everybody else does? Not really. Now, they do have a new head coach / GM, I think, in Jerod Mayo, now that Bill Belichick's out of town, so maybe things will be run slightly differently, but from everything I've heard, Jerod Mayo is essentially Bill Belichick's prodigy, so we should expect more or less the same from the New England Patriots. And I do think if he were to, be brought up in a system like the Patriot way, then Marvin Harrison Jr.'s career will look pretty good in the NFL. Of course, nothing is certain, and I can't tell you for sure what team will be drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. It all comes down to what those first 3 teams do in the draft. Of course, like I said, I think the most likely scenario is the Bears selecting him, but any 3 of those teams could easily trade up or down, and that leaves Marvin Harrison Jr.'s future very undecided. Anyway, that's about it for this video. Really just wanted to cover Marvin Harrison Jr. before the draft because he is my favorite prospect to come out of it. I would love if my Chicago Bears were the team that drafted him, but I completely understand if they went in a totally different direction. I'm just excited to see his NFL career play out on the big screen. Catch y'all later. Much love. Deuces.